Today we have the honor of having our own Tina Angeli as our speaker. As you know, Tina's been writing her book about her angel that helped her chart her life journey and to help others walk their own path without fear of death and with the knowledge that truly we are angels. Tina will share one of her NDEs as well, and also how her angel first appeared during her childhood and has since been her guide. This is a remarkable story. Also, Tina's book is for sale if you're interested in after the meeting, but you can't buy it before, so you won't be distracted. So with that, Tina.
Thank you. Okay, so as you can see, this poster, that's the size that I saw of the angel over the garage. The garage is, for those that have been at the house, it's 24 by 40 and it's a double-decker building. So that's how big it was. It was quite a vision. Okay, so I'm going to take excerpts from the book on sharing these stories. Okay. Okay, let's see. And the reason why I'm going to read them is because the information comes all at once, and if I don't read, I'm going to possibly repeat myself and not be clear. Okay, so that's my comfort level. So the first one is about the angel, and it was spring of 1995, which became very stressful for me. My personal life changed dramatically. I struggled with physical pain and a disability caused by a fall, and I returned to school to obtain additional skills to enhance my career. At that time, my elderly parents still required increasing amounts of my time to assist with one crisis after another. My parents' expectations became an emotional drain, and I suffered from extreme exhaustion. Following a series of sleepless nights, I felt overwhelmed and filled with feelings of helplessness and recurring painful childhood issues which were still unresolved. And I say that they were still unresolved because when I was in the book, it's chronologically written. It goes in from my childhood into now. I was 2 years old when my sister died, and for whatever reason, the drama played out that my sister died, and my parents somehow, especially my father, he would accuse me of being responsible for her death. While it's because he didn't do what he was supposed to do, but that's just the way it was played out. But anyways, through it all, I functioned on practically not existing energy. Now, a few days after Easter, I flipped through the television channels hoping to find a boring program to help me fall asleep. A program featuring people who had personal experiences with angels caught my attention. One man said he witnessed many angels of different size floating around the altar while attending the Mass. He said he saw the largest angel leaned over the priest whispering. In his excitement, he indicated this vision to his wife, but she could not see the angelic being. After the Mass, still puzzled, the man approached the priest and told him what he had seen. The priest responded, "That is remarkable. I was confused about the order of service, and a voice guided me through it." Another guest explained that we know who our guiding angels will be prior to making the decision to incarnate onto the earth plane. The amount of energy given to us depends on our free will and personal desire for spiritual growth. This information confirmed my own spiritual beliefs and made sense to me. My instincts resonated with all of it. I slept little that night, and by late afternoon the next day I felt exhausted. I remembered the TV show, and I drove home from the evening class. I thought, here I am, going home to another sleepless night. My angel can't be too big. My work doesn't seem important. I could feel my self-esteem diminishing. I arrived home around 9:30, and that's why it's all dark. I pulled into my driveway in total darkness and parked close to the house. I carefully walked to the door, and I felt grateful for the warm evening. I looked up, as I often do, and noticed the cloudless and star-enchanting starred blue sky while rummaging for keys in my purse. Suddenly, I heard a clear and sharp voice. The non-threatening voice emerged from everywhere, originating somewhere within the depth of my soul. The voice commanded, "Turn around." I stopped and looked around. My focus zoomed toward my oversized garage standing on the acre and a half of land. A luminous being hovered from the back side of the structure with one huge open wing stretched all the way to the street. The other wing spread upward toward the north, at least 3 times the size of the 24 by 40 garage building. Astonished and mesmerized beyond words, with chills going up and down my spine, I slowly absorbed the vision of this magnificent entity. My neck, unconsciously curved all the way back to my visual range, could grasp the majestic vision. Without any doubt, I knew I beheld an angel. The angel filled the 3-dimensional view with soft, fluffy white light. A sparkle of gray enhanced the depth of the facial features and feathers on the wings. As she continued to watch me, the angelic being floated in midair beyond my garage. While the energy flow radiated all over the land, I stood mesmerized while giggles of happiness took over my body. "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God," that's all I kept saying. I repeated as I stood with my mouth open, filled with joyous shock. Incredible loving energy flowed through my spine and penetrated every cell of my body. I wanted to get closer to her, but felt grounded to the earth. Suddenly, I heard the same clear voice again. "Is this big enough for you?" A profound rush of calming understanding came over me. I realized something way bigger than me. A magnificent messenger advised me to lighten up. Flashbacks of the supportive nightly visitor I received as a child confirmed the validity of the present experience. The experience felt very familiar, and my body became wrapped in a peaceful, warm, and pure energy. I felt total acceptance, imperfections and all. Joy filled my heart, and humility filled my soul. I felt lighter, as if all burden lifted from my shoulders. Someone special shared my pain. One of God's helpers inspired me to realize I never have to face anything alone. How could I have forgotten? She hovered above the garage, completely surrounded by the loving light. She telepathically communicated, "I am the one who visited you as a child in Italy. I am your personal angel." My mouth remained open in awe as she continued. "There's nothing to fear, dear one. You are protected. Allow yourself to simply be utilized as an instrument. The energy comes through you, not from you, dear. You chose to do this work before your birth, and all you need to do is trust, allow, and we will do the rest." Still uttering, "Oh my God, I finally found my keys and entered my home. In the middle of my kitchen, motionless and quivering with joy, I thought, wait a minute, did I really see what I saw? I quickly darted outside to make sure. Yes, the angel remained overpowering the area over my property. How could I have possibly forgotten or doubted it? With the message delivered, the messenger began to leave. The image began to look like an unfocused photograph, with no question about the reality of its existence. The vision slowly faded away. That was a pretty amazing gift. The next day in meditation, I asked more questions and received, "My name is Naomi. I am the one that visited you as a child in Italy. We've been together since before Earth time. I am your personal angel." She continued to state that this stage of my journey signaled the beginning of my spiritual work with spirit. The calling was part of the contract I wrote before incarnating on the earth. This mission is one of the many experiences I chose for my current earthly existence. My childhood visitor, my beautiful lady Naomi, I was glad to finally know her name, clearly made me aware that trust was all I needed, followed by simply allowing Spirit to do the rest. Her bond felt familiar, loving, and supportive as it did in my early childhood many years ago. Her powerful yet gentle message felt loud and clear. This life-changing experience is a pivotal bonus and a wonderful reminder of the reasons I'm here. These simple words were all my Italian stubbornness needed to hear. Foolish excuses such as I'm too shy or my accent will not be understood no longer worked. I graciously accepted my gift and I committed to my spiritual work. When I decided to get out of my own way, everything fell into place as I honored my thin veil of consciousness. Now, this is one story, and I'm going to share another one, but if anybody has questions about this, those of you that have not read the book yet, this is the time to ask. Okay?
Okay.
You have a question?
No, yeah.
No? I'm surprised. Okay, anyone else?
How did this vision disappear? It just melted away?
Yeah, it felt like it was an unfocused photograph that was fading away. It was all made out of clouds.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it just faded away. That's how it happened. Anyone else?
Question.
Yes.
Okay, in your illustration, it's basically almost black and white. Was it in full color?
Well, full coloring, I mean, in so much as, I mean, what color do you see at night? It was, there was some pink into it, but it was mostly made out of clouds. The designer, who did a great job, we met so many times, there was a lot of frustration. At first, he started by doing the scale much smaller than it is. I said, well, remember, 3 times the size of the garage. He says, got you, scale higher, okay. So it was basically all made out of clouds, and the gray enhanced the depth of the wings and all that. That wing that's over there, that went all the way up to the street. Now, the garage sits about, what would you say, 150 feet away from the house, and so I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, it's just that it was happening at dusk and generally.
It was 9:30 at night. It was dark.
Oh.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
dark. That's why it looks so dark
Well, Tina,
there.
it was a little misleading about the colors, I think, because one of the phrases that you read from the book, you mentioned you were staring or looking to blue sky. You should say like
Yeah,
blue,
dark blue sky.
or dark blue,
Yeah.
or almost black.
And it was all full of stars. Yeah, there were no
Because when you
clouds.
say blue sky, the image
Well,
comes of something
dark
like
blue.
like.
It was 9:30 at night.
Oh, okay. And whether like the facial features, like they weren't as clear as in the picture, were they?
They actually were, because I explained that it's almost like it was imprinted in my brain, even though this happened over 60 well, more than 60 years ago. Yeah, it was the most amazing experience. I just did the best I could to work with him and make this as close to that as possible. There was a lady, yes, no, not you, Sandy, the other one in the back.
Has she returned since that night, and was she still that large?
I didn't hear that.
Has she returned again since that night, and was she still that large?
No, I think the joke was that here I was feeling sorry for myself and say, I bet, you know, my angel can be big because my work is an important. So that's why she kind of reminded me that she came that size just to allow me to see that, you know, I needed to just lighten
You
up,
haven't
basically.
seen her since?
Yeah, and I see her coming. Sometimes I get really frustrated with things that happen in life. And I remember one time, here I am bitching to myself. And she says, oh, dear, just remember, this is all an illusion. Just go with it. Yeah, it's easy for you to say. You don't have to be here and blah, 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 blah. So I'm getting upset with her. Because they're very patient. Our helpers are very patient. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so then it's Lou and then it's Sandy, yes?
Yeah, did you find it hard to decide to get out of your own way?
Yeah, I had quite a few, what I call spiritual 2x4s. Boom, boom. And finally I decided to stop being stubborn for my own sake. And in the book, it will, it flows. Like Michael did some of the editing, and he says that the stories really flow together. And there's something about him that you'll find it very interesting. Look at that, he's still shaking his head. Okay, so did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, Sandy?
If someone else had been in the area, would they have seen the angel, or was it just for you?
I don't know. I wish I would have thought of taking a picture. So I don't know. I don't know if someone else would have been able to see it. So,
Probably not. That was yours.
I don't know. I would have hoped that somebody else would have seen it, but no, I don't know. So that's one thing I do not know.
You might have not been able to get a picture because it's in your mind.
Well, no, it was right there. Anyways, it was outside of my mind. I was looking at it.
Yeah.
60 years ago, unless you carried a camera, she wouldn't have gotten it. There's no cell phones.
That's
No
true.
cell phones.
Yeah, no cell phones for sure. Now, even now, I have a cell phone, I leave it home. Okay, anyone else had any questions specifically about this experience? Yes, Sue.
Do you think it's your spirit guide transforming to the image to show you something?
Well, she told me that she is one of them. She was my personal angel. She's the one that would come at the age of 2 when my sister died. She would come and visit me in bed before I fell asleep. I would see her floating in the room, and I would fall asleep by just looking at the soles of her feet. Sometimes she played peekaboo, So that's one. I have others, as we all do, for different reasons. But she was the one, as she said, she was my personal guide, and she came to my rescue when I was going through that tragic event at the age of 2 years old. Yeah.
Was that your older sister or younger?
Younger. I was 2 and she was 1 when she died from a childhood disease. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Anyone else? So there are 2 ladies, good friends of mine that just came in. That's Kathy and Kate, mother and daughter. Haven't seen them in a while. Welcome. Okay, so as a matter of fact, Kathy, writing, for those that write, you have to know that it's a very, very lonely thing to do. You have no one else to, and so sometimes I would call Kathy among other friends, and she would hear what I had just written, and she'd say, more. So it's great to get support. And I remember one time I read one of the stories in here that says, "Wow, that's hard to believe." And I said, "You can't make this stuff up." Yeah, it's been quite a ride. It's an incredible thing for me to have had a lot of people volunteer to help me. There's Sky in the back there. Can you raise your hand? Yeah, she helped me with that too. She was really good at nudging me to. I'm hungry for another story, Tina. Would you send it to me, please? So it's wonderful to it felt like this book still has a life of its own. It just needed to be born. Okay, any other questions on that for now? You can ask me later, but I want to continue with one of my near-death experience. As a matter of fact, when I had this, I checked with IANDS many, many years later, but I learned that when I was a child and this traumatic experience happened to me where I was actually made to believe that I was responsible for my sister's death, that, and then, you know, the angel came and would keep me company and all that. IANDS considers something like that an emotional near-death, more like a life-transforming event. And so I didn't know that for the longest time. And it wasn't until I was going to present here at this group, and I asked the spirit, I said, was that a near-death? As I was writing the story, I said, was that? And I got this firm feeling right in my gut, yes. And that's when I checked, and they said, yeah, that we consider these experiences life-transforming and emotional near-death. And that's also, for lack of better word, there are no words that can explain. Energy does not have words. With the words that we choose, we come as close as possible to explaining what we wish to express. Okay? We're good so far? Okay, so the next story is going to be, and just remember, that book has 12 chapters, and this is one of them. And this is all about my, I call this chapter my miracle car crash, because there was no way I should not have been alive through this. Jim, you know this, right? Okay, so it was January 5th of 2012. This is my last near-death experience that I've had. As I've done routinely for years, I prepared both mentally and physically to be utilized as an instrument to channel spirit. By late afternoon, I had prepared dinner, taken a shower, and proceeded to get dressed. I suddenly heard, "Take that necklace off, you need to wear the other one." Upon hearing these words, my eyes automatically focused on my gold necklace with a medal of Archangel Michael laying on the dresser. The medal is special to me. It was a gift from my husband Michael a few years before we married. I do wear it often, but I did not intend to wear it that evening until I heard the voice. Considering that I've learned to listen and trust, I patiently took the necklace off and put the other one on without asking any questions. Little did I know this particular evening was not going to be like all others. Our Creator had other plans. After having had dinner, I decided to leave and prepare my office, which at the time was in the house that we live now, but then I was living with Michael, and then we sold that house and we live there now. But I had part of the house in Granby as an office. September is going to be 16 years since I've had that place there, my meditation channel group. Okay, about 6:10, as I drove from our home to East Granby to my office in Granby, I took a shortcut, which is a 4.5-mile drive. I came to a full stop where Floydville Road meets Route 10 and 202. I proceeded to look both ways, and I noticed the oncoming traffic on both sides of the main road was far enough, and I quickly made a left turn. The hit came hard and loud, and I had no idea what hit me or where. I even thought it might have come from above, as Bradley Field Airport is only a few miles away. Suddenly, I felt my car spin around countless times at a most incredible speed in the middle of the road. I later learned that an old SUV truck crashed into the left side of my car, the driver's side. I abruptly found myself crushed by the caved-in driver's door and partially pinned between the airbags, the steering wheels, and the passenger seat, while still tied to my seatbelt. The airbags exploded and steam came from the inside of the car. An awful odor filled the car, which made my breathing extremely difficult. One of the policemen later told me that the odor came from talcum powder in the airbags, as both the side and the driver's bag exploded upon impact. I tried to catch my breath, but it was extremely difficult. I never thought my death would occur by a car accident. Had driven by this area for years, alone with my family, and I never thought this was where I would die later in life. As the car continued to spin at a super high speed, instantly, I felt my consciousness slowing down, and in my reality, everything went into slow motion. I became aware of everything being flat, more vivid and transparent, like a holographic imagery. My breathing stopped, and I felt my soul spin out of my body. Okay. Surreal is the only word to explain what happened next. I found myself in the middle of a floating room or platform, having a telepathic conversation with someone in a group of 9 beings. At this point, Bob, would you help me in taking that artwork there out of the bag? So put it someplace where everybody can look at it. Thank you. Now Jack here, we had numerous conversations, and he created what I saw while I was up there. Someplace, probably can everybody see that? Okay, so the transparent part is me looking at the 9 entities around that curved table, okay? Surreal is the only word to explain what happened next. I find myself in the middle of a floating room or platform having a telepathic conversation with someone in a group of 9 beings that felt familiar to me. Intuitively, I knew they were special and not of this world. They function in a powerful decision-making capacity in the spiritual realm. I remember part of my conversation, although more like transference of words. I said, I can't leave now, I'm not finished. And I have more important things to do on the earth in this lifetime. As I thought these words, they telepathically transferred, the words telepathically transferred with a passion. I directed my communication to the central light being standing in the middle of the other 80 entities in the room behind an ornate table. I often flash back to this event, and I marvel that I was not concerned with the possibility of dying. I was more concerned with what I still needed to accomplish on this earth. Most near-death experiences say they seem to not want to come back. An active and protective energy surrounded me. Although outside my physical body, I was able to hear all what transpired outside of my car, such as the traffic completely stopped and people talking and exiting their cars to observe the spectacle. I sensed their thoughts. Some were merely curious, while others genuinely wanted to offer assistance. Everything happened simultaneously, accompanied with a distinct feeling that there really is no right or wrong. Within that level or dimension, all was perfect, clear, timeless, and fearless. I felt protected by a familiar, loving, soft, and warm bubble. As with my previous 2 NDEs, acceptance was a vital aspect of this scenario. I felt no pain whatsoever, only total acceptance. At the same time, I felt the most amazing and protective warmth traveling up my body. Suddenly, the car came to a complete stop on the other side of the main road, and at the same time, I clearly heard the word, okay. Now, back in my car, back in my body, I opened my eyes and saw the exploded white airbags in front of me and on the side of me, and my breathing became easier. Later, while still processing the whole episode, I thought, well, other NDEs get incredible wisdom, and I only get okay. The full understanding of this celestial experience, which occurred in timelessness, came slowly. At that point, I heard a hissing sound coming from the inside of the car. Looking through the windshield, I observed a woman and a man quickly run toward my car. They were the same couple I saw from my out-of-body position above the car. Since my driver's side door was crushed, they talked to me through the broken window glass. They kindly asked if I was all right. With my squished body in shock and shaky, I managed to slowly respond, "I'm not sure," although I felt like I was in a trash compactor. I had no physical pain. The woman grew concerned that the car would explode, seeing steam or smoke coming from the inside of the vehicle. She suggested I try exiting from the passenger side, and I slowly followed her suggestion. I later thought, good thinking, the car did have a full tank of gas. The woman wanted to help me get out quicker, but the man, being more practical, told her not to touch me. I needed to do it by myself. When I finally was out of the car, I felt like a human jello mold as I tried to stand up. The woman finally held me up by my arm and told me someone had already called 911. They could see how weak and shaken up I was, and they invited me to sit in their car. The ambulance arrived first, and soon after the police. The paramedics took my blood pressure, and it was over 190. My breathing became increasingly difficult, so they applied an oxygen mask. Michael was called, and when he arrived, he sat with me in the ambulance. I refused hospital treatment, and as Michael helped me to his car, the driver of the old SUV, a 20-year-old woman and her boyfriend, came toward the ambulance. She looked at me, and I saw embarrassment in her eyes, and she said, "I'm sorry." She showed the paramedics a tiny scratch on her wrist. I was speechless as flashes of psychic information flooded into my mind's eye. I perceived she did not slow down. In fact, I clearly saw as she approached the intersection, she should have seen me, and she actually sped up. She was too busy talking while looking at her boyfriend and not the road. She did not see my car until she hit me. As I watched this scenario in my mind's eye, Michael proceeded to talk with the police. With my body still in shock, I began to tune in to the people waiting for me by my office. Michael came back and told me that they were still investigating the accident. I asked him to drive me to my office. People were waiting. He said, "Honey, you can't leave the scene of an accident." He could see how upset and stressed I was. As I said, "Tell the police where I will be if they need to speak with me further." He patiently went to talk to them. Whatever he said worked, and he drove me to my office half a mile away. The concerned group wondered why I was late. Michael made arrangements with my friend Joyce over there to take me home when I was ready, and left. No doubt he thought me crazy for refusing to go to the hospital. The condition of my demolished car showed this was not a minor accident. My Hyundai accent, barely a year old, with only 6,000 miles, was totaled. But at that point, it did not matter to me. At my office, I felt so touched by a healing energy everyone transmitted to me as I shared my story. Minutes later, the police arrived to return my documents and asked about the group. Someone answered there was a healing group. He said that he could use a healing, and he left with a puzzled look on his face. After a few minutes, my body started to feel incredible pain. I soon realized the steam in the car had burned through my jacket, and the skin on my left wrist was burned. I think I still have a scar here. I calmly announced that I did not think I would be up to channel. I needed to go home. Thankfully, one of the ladies strongly suggested calling the ambulance to take me to the hospital would be a better choice. The whole group convinced me that I did not look good. The ambulance quickly arrived. The attending paramedics were the same two men who came to the scene of the accident. On the way to the hospital, Joyce came with me in the ambulance. The younger paramedic, who I'll call Jason for privacy reasons, did his professional best to make me feel as comfortable as possible. While monitoring me, he kept asking me questions. When asked the nature of my occupation, I said I'm a medium. He expressed interest and believed in that possibility. He shared that his grandmother recently died and he was close to her. With this information, the discussion suddenly turned personal for him. and we continued to chat, making the ride to the hospital much quicker. When we arrived at the emergency room, Jason told me he had to take care of paperwork and that he would be back to say goodbye. As the nurse began her routine prep work, without warning, I became aware of a female spirit around me. She told me she needed me to give Jason an important message. She repeated this statement continuously like a broken record as the nurse worked on me. So Jason came back to let me know he was leaving and wished me well. I looked into his eyes and said, "Please come back later. I have to talk to you." He sensed the importance of my request and agreed. When the nurse left, Jason returned and held my hand while he looked at me attentively. I proceeded to channel the message for him. "Jason, I'm your grandmother. I'm so proud of you for doing what you're doing now and for what you will be doing in your future. Please know that I love you much, always." Tears welled up in his eyes. This young man told me he knew exactly what his grandmother meant. He thanked me for the gift and said that I would see him again. As my conversation returned to my situation, I thought, I know I'm committed to this work, but I'm in the emergency room with my body far from being in good shape. Will I ever get a break from these dead people? Although I don't even take aspirin, I felt desperate for heavy-duty drugs. After numerous tries, they finally placed a needle in my right wrist. Once the nurse injected the medication, my body became relieved of pain and I began to relax. The doctor sent me for a CAT scan to determine if there was any broken bones. Up until that announcement, I had not been concerned about possibility of broken bones. Back in my room, the waiting process began. A change of shift occurred and another doctor arrived with good news. I had no broken bones, and that's why I call it the miracle car crash. Needless to say, I was happy and relieved. I said, "Thank you, God," out loud. At one point, I touched the left side of my head and it felt wet. I looked at my finger and saw blood. Michael called the nurse who looked at me, at my head, pronounced it, "It's nothing I have to fix, it will dry by itself." Weeks later, in conversation with a nurse friend of mine, that was you, Kathy, she told me that strong medication should not have been given to me once there was the possibility of head trauma. When the pain became worse, the drug was injected directly into my arm. My body began to show extreme bruising on my left side, my hips, my head, my nose, my lips, and my left wrist. By 2:30 a.m., I was finally told that I could go home and to expect to feel worse for the next couple of days. The recovery begins. Even with Michael's help, getting in and out of the car was challenging. Getting into bed was even more difficult. I felt like a slow-motion short robot, but I was glad to be home. I must have fallen asleep since I remember waking up. I cannot even come close to explain the extreme pain I felt through my body. Unrecognizable sounds came out of my mouth as I took each painful breath. Giving birth to 3 children had not been this painful. It was difficult to walk, talk, keep my eyes open, and breathing was even worse. I finally decided to take one of the painkillers. Although we have excellent medical insurance, I did not fill the 2 prescriptions of painkillers. My naturopathic doctor asked me to get arnica, homeopathic remedy both in a cream form for the visible bruises and pellets to take orally. Does anybody know about arnica? The pain and the bruising were relieved strictly with arnica. Unlike prescription drugs, arnica has no side effects. The chiropractor booked me the next day as the whole left side of my body and my left hip were extremely bruised. They must have looked worse than I thought by the shocked look on her face when she saw them. Unfortunately, adjusting my traumatic body was impossible. I rested and soaked in the hot tub. While the bruises kept turning into every color of the rainbow, the pain became more bearable. I stayed in touch with my daughters and a few friends. Even the simplest task proved difficult. I was reminded of how I took so much for granted before this serious accident. Sadly, even my thinking remained in robotic mode. 3 days after the accident, I received an email from a friend in my spiritual community. She had been informed of my serious car accident and asked everybody on her email list to send me remote healing energy. As I read these words, the most incredible emotional burst engulfed me. Filled with gratitude, I cried like a child. For the first time in days, my robotic state dissolved and I felt more grounded. Emails, cards, and calls started to arrive, and my daughter visited. Okay, so the experience enhanced my belief in non-traditional healing modalities as I continue to trust my intuition and my guides as to which were best for me from week to week. As my bruises healed, challenges with my head and the whiplash persisted. My chiropractor used the kinesiology, also known as muscle testing, to check what my body needed. 5 months later, my physical body was no longer in a state of trauma. Non-traditional diagnostic assessment was done to my energy field. The assessment helped me to reground and restore balance to my system as a whole. I felt better after every session. Now, this is about getting clarity. In the process of translating those experiences into knowledge, I constantly ask myself, where did I go when I lost consciousness? How can I remember more? I felt there was more information to retrieve. Although I knew eventually I would remember, I asked my guides to help me access this material. Their answer, talk to Claire. Through my friend Elizabeth, I learned Claire is a hypnotist. I made an appointment and I finally found out more. The hypnotic session took me back to January 5th when my breathing stopped. I was guided to go into the etheric realm. I clearly saw my soul quickly leave my body and go up to a floating round room or platform suspended somewhere in the sky. I saw no walls, only the brightest light all around, which illuminated the whole area completely. I became aware of my breathing not being necessary in this space. There existed a carved table in the shape of a half moon. Standing behind the table were 9 entities. These light beings were comprised of pure light energy. To enhance their form, they wore dark brown capes that formed a human silhouette around their light bodies. I felt this shape was created for my benefit, to distinguish how many were present. The love emanating from them, particularly the central light being, was pure and intense. His wisdom was beyond human words, and I felt honored to be there. Standing in front of the 9 light beings, my consciousness and alertness peaked. I was acutely aware of what each of these loving ones telepathically sent to me. Although no physical words were spoken, their messages were conveyed telepathically by pure thought. Therefore, there could be no misunderstanding of any part of their communication. In that state of profound eternal bliss, although finding the right words was challenging, this is what I received. Proceed. You will be affecting many lives by your messages. There's no reason for you to feel bashful, to feel shy, or to be concerned with what other people think of what your messages are. Continue to trust. It's a process. Your healing will affect the healing of others. We are talking about emotional healing here. At the same time, I observed multicolored energy, green for healing, pink for unconditional love, and purple, which enhanced the crown chakra at the top of my head as it gently swirled. As my left ear began to itch, the message continued, proceed. It's not about what other people think about your speaking the truth. You're always loved unconditionally. Never ever forget it. And trust your gut feelings always. Enjoy every breath that you take. Enjoy life. It is precious. And know that we love you unconditionally, always. I'm getting energy in my back. Concurrently, I also saw and felt my body in the car and the people of the accident. I was utterly amazed by the acceptance. I felt a joy that I cannot even begin to define. At the end of the session, Claire gave me the CD and she reminded me to listen to it often, as it might trigger more information from my subconscious. Through the following years, I continue to wonder who these 9 entities are. Through a channel session, I learned that these beings are the 9 lords of karma. Karma is not a system of punishment, and it has nothing to do with fate. If we do something negative, it doesn't mean that something negative has to happen to us to even it out. Karma is actually based on actions and thoughts in every single moment. The Buddhism philosophy, karma is defined as energy created by willful action through thoughts, words, and deeds. The Lords of Karma work with many different groups at this time. They're helping mankind with the ascending process. Ascension is an opportunity to embrace who we truly are and to move past this identification with the physical body and realign ourselves with true essence, the spirit. The Lords of Karma are of one common mind and goal. They spoke with me as I was contemplating whether to stay on the other side or go back in my body to finish my contract on the earth. Since the accident, I have realized that my perception of life has changed. I feel infused with a sense of mission. For one, materialistic pursuits are meaningless in the grand plan. I've noticed that my sleep state dreams are more vivid and clear. Often I feel strong energy waves in my body. Sensation of heat and cold more intense than ever. A few months after the accident, I had my annual eye exam, and I learned that I had 20/20 vision. This is for magnification. Apparently my outer vision as well as my inner vision improved. After a hearing test a few years later, the doctor said that it is highly unusual for the hearing graph to go upward instead of downward, as it normally does for people my age. Additionally, shyness, which I dealt with all my life, has completely disappeared. Did my wearing Archangel Michael's medal save my life? I believe that the drama about to occur on that important evening was part of the plan. I am not minimizing the challenges that my body is still having, but wearing the medal was a reminder for me that nothing happens by accident. My miracle car crash gave me an opportunity to take an inventory of my priorities in preparation for the next stage of my work. Since January 5th of 2012, I have come full circle, and I am amazed of the knowledge that is still becoming available to me. It is beyond words. Now it's also much easier for me to be part of the spiritual world and still be in my body. Would you, somebody start? No, you can't open that.
Someone need to open the door. It's locked from inside.
So Bob is going, okay. Okay, so deep in my heart and soul, I understand that everyone physically incarnated on earth at this time has 2 basic purposes: to remember that we're all powerful and multidimensional beings, and to express unconditional love for ourselves and others. Quantum physics recognizes that all life is always interconnected and cannot be broken. Therefore, promoting unity will make the transition of the upcoming earth changes much easier for all. My intense and life-changing experience reaffirmed that life does not begin with birth nor end with death. Consciousness continues on. Yes, there is an afterlife, although I've long believed that the energy of love is truly all there is. In 2012, I became fully engaged, and it's taken me to a place of truly embracing myself. Our Creator is not out there She is indeed inside of all of us. We are co-creators of God's manifestation. The heartfelt message I wish to share is, it's never too late to restructure our life's foundation. By intention, in our mind's eye, visualize the importance of loving and cooperating with each other instead of competing. Life is precious. Let's find our own purpose and live it to the fullest. Okay. So I will end there because then it goes into where they came and visited me 3 years later and more information. So I'll leave that for you to read the book. Questions?
Tina, when you were talking, telepathically with these 9 beings, did they, and you were trying to decide if you want to stay or come back here or whatever, did they give you any insight into future events?
It just was, it felt like everything was all-knowing there, that I didn't even have the need to bring that part back with me. I didn't ask any question, it was just all-knowing. But I didn't, all I was intending to do is that there's no way I was gonna go. I needed to come back and finish. But I also knew at that same time that it's like I had, I'm sure the book was one of them, but I had so many important things to do, but I don't remember what the other things were. I don't know if that makes any sense. Yes? Sim.
You said after the accident, your vision is 2020.
Yeah.
What was your vision before?
It was,
Can you repeat the question?
Vision. What
Vision.
vision?
Vision,
Yeah.
okay.
it was,
Thank you.
for example, one of the things that bothered me was like even sitting on the couch and having the light next, that bothered me, having lights above me, like it just, too much brightness, I could not, my body could not take. So as far as, and also the inner vision was also different. I could see things a lot clearer than I did even before, as far as, information, psychic information. Any other questions? Yes, Jim.
What are some of the challenges you had as you integrated your experience of the years since then?
Oh, since? Well, sometimes, not just Michael, but other people, when they speak their normal way of speaking, it's too strong for me. I have to tell them to, either get away from me and so I can, it hurts my hearing.
Is it the volume or is it the energy?
I feel that it's the volume, and I think it's connected with the energy. It hurts.
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand this. He said, well, I'm talking the normal way.
Clear audience. I think it's the clear audience, because I get the same thing.
Yeah?
Sometimes
Okay.
it will drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the information that comes through me. And it's interesting, because I noticed this a few years ago, that when I get information for others, when I do sessions, it comes from the left side. And when I do it for myself, when I receive information from me, it comes from the right. I have no idea why, but I've noticed that. I don't know if it makes any sense, but
It's Reiki usually comes in through one side and exits.
oh,
So
I have no idea. Sometimes I'll talk and I'll talk out loud. Let's say somebody passes by me and I pick up on things and I'll say it out loud because I figured, well, I'm with somebody, I might as well say what I'm seeing or feeling. And he goes, yeah, you know everything. I said, no, I know absolutely nothing until I get the information. Michael is an engineer. Okay, so, yes.
Could you describe the atmosphere of that NDE with the 9 entities, what the space
platform?
was like, et cetera?
On the platform?
Yes.
First of all, I want to thank you again for creating my etheric body slender. Thank you for that. And taller. And so the atmosphere felt like, even though they were across from me, right? And so there was no reason on earth to feel like I was embraced with this incredible loving energy. I felt no pain, it was just so blissful. But they were there and I was here. How could I have felt that? But I did. So it was like this incredible embrace with love and healing. It was just so powerful. Yes?
Could you share more about what they said to you and what happened when you were in front of that council?
What I shared is all I got at that time.
Thank you.
Okay? They came back again 3 years later. They came back, and that goes into another story, so that's in the book.
How much is your book?
It's $18 plus tax. Okay, even 19 will do it. All right, so question, yes?
Did you find that did it take you time for the experience that you've had, like the experience of love there, that you were able in time to process that and to apply it into the world and to see it in the world? Did you find it difficult?
Yeah, the mission has become very clear. And another thing that I mentioned here is that it became much easier for me to go to the other side and still be in my body, because if people that are outside of the body too much on the earth, there's an imbalance.
Yeah.
Okay.
And seeing that, and to me, it took time to be able to see the difference and have the love and compassion and to apply both those things.
And there is also feelings that, because we're experiencing energy, the words that we choose to express this energy are as close as we can come to, with any language, really. So, because energy does not have words, it's just energy.
Yeah, we say words to try to help us in that dialogue.
The words that we choose just come as close as possible to expressing.
But it also, can block you up. I mean, because you say a word and you apply it into that word, but then there's more, and to be able to know the knowing of the energy that is beyond words, and there's so much more, and it's the meaning in the energy, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, it's hard, because many times, this is why I have to read my stuff, because it comes in a wave, like everything is like almost like a puzzle, and then you have to dissect it and choose the right words to make sense to the listeners. It's crazy. Any other words? It feels like, Rob, I'm surprised. You have a question?
No, I just been nodding.
Okay.
To you.
All right. Do you have a question?
Do you feel that angels have a single gender, or do they reflect the body you're carrying with you now?
I was told many years ago that androgyny is what happens when, whether it's angels or we go back to the source. We're both. The energy is both male, female.
But how do they present? Yours came as a female.
I have no idea. I don't know.
I've heard both male. I've heard male and female presentations.
Really?
Come both, depending on the need and the interest at the time.
Yeah.
So I've had males till they had male guides, presented as male guides, that look like male guides, where get women up and touch them. So I'm just wondering if it aligns with us.
So if it's perceived as male, it might be because of the energy,
Right.
But it's not. There is no gender.
Well, I would agree on the other side. Yeah. It's just how they present, not necessarily what they actually are.
Mm.
And the angels look a lot different to themselves than they look to us.
It's funny because I've been doing this since I was 2 years old, right? Although then I didn't even know what I was doing. But I've taken so much for granted. When I do sessions, sometimes people will stop me and say, where did you go to get that information? It's like, holy cow, I don't know. It's almost like it's taken for granted.
John Edwards has spoken in the past, and some of the other, that what tells them the information is actually their guides or their angels actually give them the information when they have other people on this side.
Yeah, there's a lot of involvement between our personal guides and the person's guides. They kind of work together. There's no competition on the other side. Yes.
I'm interested in the difference between angels and guides. Do you sense you have guides in addition to the angelic?
Yes, there are some of the guides are loved ones that have crossed over, and some of them there are entities that we might have had past lives together, so those that have never come on the earth. But basically, the title says it, we're all angels, and I truly believe that. Yeah. Yes, Jerry.
I remember you're speaking of, as you're writing the book for the last couple of years, you said your guides have said this book would help people who are contemplating suicide.
That was the next part of that, yeah. Yeah, it's an,
I won't ask you to share it.
yeah, 3 years later, that's what they, because I was frozen stiff, nothing was coming out of me, you know, wringing my hands, walking up and down, and he would say to me, just write, you can always delete, you can always change. But it's not coming out. Nothing is coming out. They wouldn't understand. And so I was very frustrated because I wanted this book to be out. And that's when one time, you know, they came again very gently, and yeah, they said that the book would help people contemplating suicide. And then there's a story in there about someone that I know personally that tried that. So it flows.
Are you going to share that story? You
In the
going to
book.
talk about it? Oh,
No, it's in the book. I can't read the whole book. Joey's laughing.
Did you find that all your experiences, did that help you to learn and understand more about your body? And did you see your body differently, or?
Well, I did understand that sometimes, not just with me, but with people, when we are challenged with certain challenges, it's because of what we're supposed to be learning from those challenges. And then once we learn them and we allow that to change, then there's help where that challenge can be released and say, okay, next, if there is another one. Yes, Rob?
Have you got spiritual closure with finishing of your book?
With what
And
book?
spiritual closure with the completion of your book.
I tell everybody that this is my only child. There is nothing more that needs to be done. I will not write another book, although some of my friends disagree with this, but you know, it's a choice that we make, but we never know. Actually, somebody said to me, Tina, come on, really? We are angels? How can you say that? I said, okay, well, how would you feel about me calling the book, We Are Extraterrestrials? Would you like that better? Nothing. It is what it is. It's my baby. Any other questions? Comments? Yes?
I have a question. This is my second time coming, and it's
Welcome.
been a year or two since I was brought here by my friend. And I am wondering, is there a difference in what you experience between your, can you get messages from people who are Jewish, for instance?
Oh, yeah, there's no religion on the other side. although in the book I say, and I got this information from Spirit, that all religions are valid because they serve, the purpose is to get people connected to where they're drawn to make friendships, create relationships. Yeah, it's there's this gentleman that about 2 years ago, he was so Catholic, he was such a wonderful person, and as we were leaving to go to his wake, I got out of the car and he says, "Tina, there's no religion here. I can't believe it." He was so shocked. His etheric body was talking to me as we were going into the place. And I'll tell you, they're very, there's a lot of humor going on.
Oh, yes.
Anything else? Karen, I thought for sure you'd have a question. No? I'm so glad your book is finished. Karen has written a book and pretty soon it'll come out. You're going to talk here, right? I hope. Yeah. Karen has had, when was it? When was your near-death experience? Many, many years ago. When?
71.
71. Oh. Yeah, that was an incredible story.
Now, is Karen's book about her NDE?
Yeah, well, it's multiple things, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a title for it yet?
Yeah. It's called Dancing in the Moonlight, Embracing the Sacred in the Dying Time. And basically, it's a story of my father's journey when he was dying, and his deathbed visions and how they helped him to come to terms with the things that were unresolved in his life. And it was a story of our bonding and all the things that he had shared with me, throughout that time. And it's written for caregivers of people who are dying, or for the people who are dying themselves. There's so many losses and emotional things that people go through during that time.
Do you share your NDE in the book?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
It
good.
actually starts with it.
Okay, good.
It's on the first page.
The book's almost done.
It's needs to be edited.
Will you
Very
do a
good.
presentation here?
I will.
Okay. You know, it's just really wonderful, the intimacy that she's talking about, which is really great. And then the frustration of the other part of someone that will not allow themselves to come out of themselves, and the blockage and the confusion that you have with trying to understand that the person that won't, and that this is was really beautiful.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And in your experience, and I came late, so you had a near-death experience, that was
Well,
as you survived.
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you have any information to give people that were on your side? Did they have any information to give you that you were supposed to share with others that are here?
Well, the information all came from the entities that I met up with there. Okay, in that drawing that Jack did for me, we had many meetings, and Jack had tons of questions for me to be able to do that expression there. He did a great job. That took about a year before it was done, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think the book, if you're drawn to getting the book, you'll have your answers there. I'm sorry that you came late.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Yes, Jack?
How did this experience with the entities change, enhance, or modify your ability to channel?
Enhance is the word, because I was doing that when I was a child, when I was seeing. And then, of course, my second one was when I drowned. But this one definitely enhanced. The information is much clearer and sharper. And I feel like before I wanted to be on the other side more. I didn't even know I was doing that, but which is not good. You're on the earth. You're supposed to be grounded. But now I am more comfortable being in my body and still access the information. But I am much more aware of things than I used to be. It enhanced, basically. I don't know how else I can say. Much clearer. And also the idea of sharing my experiences is very important, because I knew instinctively that this book was going to help many. And then we're going to be doing some travel with the book and all that stuff.
I have another question. Do you feel chosen?
I feel like I am one of many that contracted to do this type of work. Not chosen by one entity. We make our contract before we come on the earth, and the clarity that was there, this is what I guess I wanted to do, because I felt that I could be of service. I'm sure in previous lifetime, I don't know how many times, but at least once I was burned at the stakes as a witch. But the timing is right now to be, people are more open. There's even scientific studies made of that, and there's a blending of each. We choose. Anyone else?
Yes.
Oh, yes, Deb.
Do you, with the 3 near-death experiences that you had, is there a common theme? Was there progression with each one? Or did they give you totally different types of gifts?
It was very, they were all 3 of them very different, but the theme basically is that we're not victims. We choose these experiences, and what good are they if we don't share them with others? There are many people that end up either in a mental institution because they're afraid to share this with others, but this is what's great about this group, and I'm so grateful to UConn for allowing. As a matter of fact, you're going to love this, because in the book I honor UConn for allowing us to use this, and I have our website in there and everything fell together. So did I get off? See what happens? I get off on other tangents. Did I answer your question? Okay. Yes, Jim.
Did you feel like, when you're over there, obviously you're getting information while you're there,
Mm-hmm.
but did you also feel that there's almost like a download of information?
Yes, that was exactly it. It was downloaded, and none of it needed for me to ask, is this download right? That it was just taken for granted that everything was, and some of the information I did not retain.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that it's there, so we don't have to necessarily have a near-death experience to get the information. Intention, we can go to the source by intention if we trust ourselves to do it. If we get something that says, oh God, no, I didn't really get that, did I? Just trust that you get it, and that it will be such.
Yeah. I've been finding out lately that, see, it's really tough, because this world, there's a lot of things that is very helpful, like you were saying, in this world we need things to help us to get along the process, but the thing is, we have to grow, and even as we grow as adults, is that I found if I don't blame myself, when I would not blame myself, I would find that I could love myself, and then I said, this is amazing, that I'm not blaming that other person and victim. tell myself, I don't let myself be a victim, and then I don't go ahead and victim people, because I would find that when I was victiming somebody else, that I was saying the way I would perceive things, and I would find myself not growing. I said, but this is really amazing. But I think we're coming along, and I think that's what the confusion in the world is now, because we are processing that, and we are more open, and we have to love ourselves and go along the steps, like what you were saying. And I really am so thankful for what you talked about tonight, because it takes time. And to be able to change, and then to get away from the habitual habits, and something that was in the pillar of control and help me to survive, is be able to see more and see it in a different way. But it's...
We get the download, and then we have to give ourselves a chance to process everything within our bodies.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to meditate and, do these rituals that are very important to do.
Yeah, they say, like even now, like dementia, that if we do multitasking and we be more organized, and no matter what we become now, there's still more, and for us to be able to go along with that and see it in a different way, and to be able to more, like even the last 3 or 4 years, I've seen so much, and it was so scary at first because my world just opened up when my wife passed away. But giving myself compassion and time, I said, this is really something.
Yeah.
And then I could also see how I would want to hold on to myself and then be compassionate for others. And
be patient with yourself as well.
And you have to be, and you have more patience than you ever had.
Mm. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
What is the difference between someone who actively takes their life, commits suicide, versus a near-death experience? Is there a different treatment of them, or do they have an opportunity to be, or is once you're dead, then there is no more information going?
Well, the difference is that, the one that succeeds with the suicide it's not a near death, it's a full death.
Right.
Okay? I've known people that have tried suicides, and there was some interference where it wasn't their time, and they returned, and I speak a story about that in there. And many times I've also heard of stories where people, they were just curious about what it would feel like to their mental attitude. And then once they're across, they are kept in an area, from my understanding is that they're kept in an area to be able to be processed in a different way, understand what they did and how possibly they could have done it different, and then they can decide whether to come back or stay and help others with the same issues.
Do you ever find yourself telling a complete stranger something relative
Oh, God,
to
yes.
them?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, spontaneous messages, yes, that happens. Thank God. I always say, God, please don't let me be Teresa Caputo. I don't want- Yeah. Who had that? I saw 2 hands up. Yes.
I agree with that processing, but I think it was IANDS came out with one of the reports that about 92% of those who attempt suicide, who return, said they'll never do it again because of the experience they
Yes.
had. Those who had near-death experiences said they would never do it again.
Yeah.
So the percentage, wherever they experience is so positive, that if somebody says, I will never take my life again, I'm meant to be here. Whatever the experience is so powerfully strong, it changes, because you have to almost be insane to actually commit suicide. So it's a powerful healer too.
What happens is they're not able to progress to the other level because their vibration's low and everything needs to be higher to get to that next level. So that's why they're kind of in a state, and they have to get processed, go through a processing with the divine. you know, they review all the information.
In keeping with what he,
Rob.
Rob
Not
was
my
saying,
job, yeah.
I worked for many years up at the big house for UConn here, and in psychiatry, and we had patients who said they wanted to die. There was no use living, they wanted to die. But then at somebody else's hand, they came that close to dying. And they were strong after that, because they realized what life was. And
Like the guy who jumped off the San Francisco Bridge, who survived. Now he's a motivational speaker. He said, I took one step off, but no, I don't want to go, but it's too late then. And he was the only one who's ever survived come up going through the bridge.
One of the biggest theme in after someone has a near-death experience is that even though they're not going to rush it, but there is no more fear of death.
Yeah.
Tina, I don't recall your NDE when you drowned. Is that something that you could share with us?
It's in the book. In the book.
Well, actually, that in a nutshell is that it was very, very important. I was in my 20s. My two daughters were young, and we were at a lake. We were swimming, and I was being very careful with watching the kids, but I never learned to swim. I slipped, and I went down, and I drowned. Every time I would get some information while I was under there, I would hear a snap. And I realized that the snap gave me the clarity of what I was seeing. And I was looking at past lives with my, at that time was my husband, but he's an ex-husband now. And I feel that I received a lot of strength through that. Because the information that came through was that the situation with him was only going to get worse. There was a lot of physical and emotional abuse in that situation, and it was going to get worse. So I came out of it feeling like I had so much strength through that experience to be able to get myself out of it, because in previous lifetimes, I wasn't able to. I had died at its hands, basically. The dramas that we choose, right? No victims.
Well, where were you when you said you drowned? Did you fall off a boat, off of dock?
I was watching the kids play in the water, and I went it was at a lake, and I slipped on something. And when I fell, I didn't know how to swim, and I kept going in further. It's a complete story in the book about that. Yes, ma'am.
When I was in my first course in college was sociology or whatever, and I read in the book that, and also in Judaism, that if you kill yourself, you are at a very low level. You are in a part of, like, it's not hell, but it's close to it.
If that's what you perceive, that's what that's what a person expects, that's what they will experience temporarily.
I agree that how negative NDEs seem to be correlated to some degree to a person's attitude at the time, whether it's suicide or not. The other part of that is, if you are killed and it's not the time to go, you may come back immediately and reincarnate to finish a contract. So some of the studies in this have shown that there's a lot of people who, when they go past life, born in 46 to about 60, who had been Jewish and were killed in the Holocaust. Because when they reverse them, they see God as a blue light. In Judaism, that's how God is viewed, as a blue light versus a white light.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that I find that is difficult for us as a society, for when you've grown and you've become and you've learned it, now you die, and then when you come back, you've got all that experience and have that understanding, and then you grow from that. But the world and society has been a certain way. And I find even a lot of young children, they have awareness and keenness and understanding. Like I would have talked to some young people that I would go through something for like, just for example, 20 or 30 years, and then I'd say something like that and they'd say, Zap. I said, wow, you got it. And they have it, but we have to change to be able to have an understanding for when you die of all that stuff that you have and you come back, you're going to grow from where you are. But we
Well, I kind of agree with you, but you also have to remember that we may, based on what we see from the clarity of being on the other side, with the help of the guides to create this lifetime, if we decide to come back again, it might not be the same choice. Yes, instinctively we might be drawn to things that we've already experienced and, you know, maybe have an easier life, but the contract might be different than the previous one, and it could also be different from other people. We're all individuals.
Yeah.
And we are in a commune of reality, but that's part of the challenge.
But you take what you got out of this life into your next life.
And we hash, and not only we use it for the next life if we so choose, but we also share it with the pool of others to benefit from. Again, pool is lack of better words. Yes?
We are angels. Are we eventually going to be like the angel above your garage? Or are there different types of angels?
Well, it's energy. When I see beings from the other side of the veil, they could be like orbs, different color orbs and all that. This is what I saw because that's what I needed to see within my limitations of my experience at the time. That's my experience. And we came as close as possible to create that which I saw, which was kind of like branded in my brain. That was 24 years ago.
And that's the same angel that appeared to you as a tiny child?
Yes, but I didn't know that because she didn't have wings then. It was just a beautiful lady that would come, and after my parents fell asleep, it would come like a veil outfit and would float around. I remember the soles of her feet being so clear. And then sometimes she'd play peekaboo, and she stayed with me until I fell asleep. That's what I needed at the time because I was emotionally abandoned by my parents.
Did you have other siblings besides the siblings?
4 years later, my brother was born, and my life became even more complicated. You'll see it in the book. And I'm sure it's on other, but in an Italian home, it's especially in my family because they had lost a child, and then the one when my brother was born 4 years later, not only did he replace my sister, but he was also happened to be a boy, and a boy has got more value in their eyes. So my life, he could do no wrong, and I could do no right. That's another drama.
Yeah, yeah. So how many brothers and sisters did you have all together?
How many what?
How many siblings were there all together?
The little girl that died at the age of 1 when I was 2, and then my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. There were 3 of us. Yes.
You described the 9 entities as orbs of light or energy, and you also referred to
Oh, the
other.
Lords of Karma.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the common denominator of who we might be when we pass over?
Their specialty, my understanding is that their specialty happens to be helping with the ascending process. That's the 9 entities. There are sets of 12, sets of other, but this is why when they came through with these wrapped in those capes, those brown capes, because otherwise I wouldn't have known how many there were. It would have been just this blob of white light. But their specialty is the helping with the ascending process.
Okay, so how do you describe yourself when you were in front of the 9 entities? Describe yourself in kind of physical terms so we can understand.
First of all, I had no pain. It felt like I was embraced by them, but yet part of me could not understand, because I was here and they were there. How could I have been embraced? But the energy was flowing around me. I felt like I was being embraced by this incredible, loving hug. Okay, and I felt like the middle one was the one that somehow made the decision. I don't know why I felt that way, but that's what it felt like. The other ones were just there to provide the experience and the help.
Okay, but you described the entities as words of energy or light, covered with capes or whatever. But you haven't really described yourself. Were you?
I had the etheric body. I was
what kind of body?
Etheric. It's the body that is from spirit, not physical. Does anybody else has a better explanation than that? Once we let go of our body, like for example, my father, there's a story about my father after he passed, that he came to visit me. He was like a holographic imagery, but there was no, it wasn't a three-dimensional, it was like a holographic imagery, flat, I could see right through him, but I had no question that it was my father.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what an etheric body is. It's like a ghost.
Okay, so if I were watching your experience, would I see you as that kind of body where I see through you?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what you created for me. Thank you for the height. Yes.
I'm sorry, maybe I missed it, maybe you already said, but let me, can I ask again, did this entities, did they do your life review? Did they judge you? Did they discuss you? What did they do? I know that it was a telepathic communication without words, but what did you feel about them and what they did for you?
It felt like the other ones were there just to kind of support me and keep me in this loving embrace. That's the best way I can explain it. The one in the middle, I knew instinctively, I knew that he was the one that made the decisions, whether I could stay or go. I wanted to go back because I had not finished. I saw all that I had contracted with, and I was not done. So I said, no, I'm not ready to go. I have so many things to do still on the earth. And all of a sudden I felt, heard, whatever. Okay, boom, I find myself back into the body. And it felt like a suction. I was going back into the body.
There was no life review, was there?
No.
What was the difference between the entities and angels?
I don't know.
I think maybe their job.
The angels have certain
Tasks.
jobs to do, and those the lords of karma have their own. Everybody's got their own task.
I just heard recently that we have like a parent soul, and then of course our fractional selves.
Yeah, the higher self and all.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that could possibly be that.
All I have to do is tune in sometime and check in and see. I'll let you know. How's that? Yes.
Can I go?
Were you done? Okay, go ahead.
I worked in nursing homes as a speech pathologist years ago, and there was a woman who was so depressed. She was diagnosed with a catatonic basically vegetative state.
Mm.
And I believe that the treatment was some type of lobotomy. And when she came back from the hospital, she seemed to be, calmer. And so my question related to your talk and your education for me is, can the brain, performing a surgical procedure on a person in severe depression or a catatonic brain be helped by the near-death experience?
Yeah, I don't know. If anybody else has an answer to that, please feel free. I do not know. Yes, at the palm here. Okay,
Sue had a question.
Yeah, regarding the 9 entities, there was a hypnotist that through his life he studied over 7,000 patients. He wrote a trilogy. One of them is The Destiny of Souls. He charted the journey of the soul going back to the spirit world, what happens. So that's a near-death experience is the beginning stage. It's like, and then what they go through. And when he described in detail the entities, he called the counselors. It's something like this, the same set up in a dome structure round, and the table is curved with the being in the middle and then beings on the side. They wear capes. They are different color capes. That it shows the incoming soul's strength and what they need to improve upon. And they wear jewelries to match what the soul needs to know. So it's totally personal, and they have a telepathic communication. And the entity in the middle is about the being that still incarnating souls see the highest level of entities. But they are above spirit guides, but no one knows their level. But there's at the highest level that we see. And it's very much like this.
Very much what?
Very much like this. What Tina saw, and then is the council elderlies in that book, Destiny of Souls. That's what they were called. They have other names.
Yeah, I've heard them
Yeah.
called Council of Light.
yeah, there are different types of councils. Yeah. Before you do your poem, we want to announce that Bob is our speaker for June,
All right.
and we need for the other months. So if anybody would like to volunteer,
I'm going to speak about my 2 entities, but
Yes.
There's room for another speaker too. So there's somebody else here that would like to speak. Maybe you could talk to Tina after.
yes, please let us know.